Hi everybody, welcome to the first of the Strand Arts Centre conversations. We're delighted to have Bronagh Gallagher with us today, the star of stage and screen. You will know her from her performances in The Commitments, Pulp Fiction, The Personal History of David Copperfield, and of course the amazing A Bump Along the Way, which we're really delighted to have at the Strand Arts Centre in the next couple of weeks. Hi Bronagh, how's things?
I'm very well, Glenn. Nice to see you. How are you?
Lovely to see you. I'm grand. How has lockdown treated you?
You know, it's been all right. I mean, I've embraced it really. The Corona coaster, I was calling it. You know, I just obviously, like everybody, it was such a sudden stop, but I think I used it productively. I went back home to Derry and walked a lot up in the mountains of Derry, Donegal, did a lot of writing, did a lot of yoga, did a lot of cooking. So, you know, I used it constructively and finished a couple of songs and you know, in and out of social distancing recording booths over the last couple of weeks. But, you know, productive and very chilled, and I just sort of enjoyed the stillness of it, really. So yeah, I looked after the folks. That was the main thing.
That's amazing. Yes, I saw you had a new record out with Dave Stewart. Yes. I believe it's a collaboration.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. How cool. And did you record the video and stuff in lockdown too? Was that?
We all recorded the video individually. I did it here in my kitchen on my own with a tripod and my iPhone. And Dave recorded his in the Bahamas, where he's in isolation. Yes. And we then had the Lucius Girls recorded theirs in their house in Los Angeles. And the boys, we recorded, I had footage of my band from the Van Morrison recording that we just done before lockdown. So I used a bit of that because that was just going to be too difficult to get them all to play and record themselves. So yeah, we took out what we had and sort of stock and recorded it. So yeah, it was, and the brilliant Matt Deary from Derry, a young stop motion animator, made the brilliant stop motion and animation stuff. So yeah. We did, you know, what we had, we worked with that, and just everybody just tried to release something positive during a very difficult time. So, you know, just to lift people's hearts, I hope.
Yeah.
Like it did.
Well, no, definitely. Well, this wee series that we're doing here today, it's really a celebration of cinema and the collective experience of going to the cinema. And so we're asking people just about earliest memories or cinemas that they're very fond of, or it doesn't even have to be your hometown cinema, it can be all sorts of things. So start at the beginning. What can you remember the first time you went to the cinema, or the earliest times?
Yes, I mean, they were always family outings, and my mum, I remember, was the sort of the chosen one to bring us to the cinema. So whatever was the big movie that came out, Louise, my sister, and Paul, my brother, and Maeve, my mum, and I, we would all go either to the Rialto Cinema in Derry, which was the music concert hall, and the cinema, or St. Column's Hall in Derry, and then later on the Strand Cinema, but it was mainly the Rialto. I remember going, you know, the excitement when you were going to the cinema. I mean, you think, you know, that was once every few months, maybe every, you know, maybe 3 times a year even. I must ask, you know, but it was, you know, I mean, the movies that we could all go and see, but I mean, you know, the excitement about going to it, and maybe the whole street would have went, you know, it was a street out, and her one mother was in charge of 6 kids or 8 kids, and she would have took them. So, I mean, one of my first memories of going to the cinema was to see Grease.
Funnily enough, me too, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
And I remember then being given a badge by one of my mum and dad's closest friends. Daisy sent us badges. I think Daisy might have took us with my mum. Daisy was a great friend of ours, and she lived in Edinburgh, then moved back to Derry, or visited from Edinburgh, and I had the Grease badge, which I still have. It's hanging in the bathroom, which I'll go and get. Hold on.
Oh, brilliant. I love it.
There it is. I still have it.
Oh, that is brilliant. That's amazing.
Yeah, I should have wore it. But that was the badge I was sent then. So Grease was the big one. And then, you know, obviously you're dancing and you're singing, then you get the LP. So we had the LP as well. And then Superman.
Wow. Okay. Great.
Superman was a big one. And Paul and I were obsessed with Superman because I always remember coming home from the cinema, and that was in the Strand, and we come up through the bog, up through Bull Park, and we thought we could fly. And I remember us sticking our arms out and, you know, doing the bit with the wee duffel coats on, and we obviously couldn't fly. But that was the power of the imagination, obviously, at the time. You know, children, you know, I think what's extraordinary is when you watch children that love films, and, you know, films are a huge part of children's life. What children operate on completely is imagination. So anything's possible, and everything they do comes from the imagination, and that's who we all are. And, you know, yourself as a filmmaker, myself as an actor, as a singer, you know, we use our imaginations all the time. You know, that's part of our life. So that skill and that talent and that, you know, gift is there from a child.
Well,
so,
it's actually holding on to that is the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think as you get older, people can lose that, and it's holding on to that kind of the magic of that thing that you have as a child.
Absolutely, and the individuality of it. And, you know, I think the one thing that I love about the job that we do is looking at people, looking at us.
Yeah, right.
And looking at people in a cinema. You know, if I've seen the film a few times, whatever, and I try and do that sneaky thing of look at people's reactions to see what happens. But it's the beauty of the complete engagement of human beings when they're looking at something that they're blown away by, looking at them laugh or looking at them cry. You know, if you're on a stage and you can look down and you can see their faces, or if you're singing and you're looking at people's faces, you know, it's the reason why we do it. It's the reason why we do it, you know. So that to me is the beauty of that, you know, what you're saying, that's what we're born with. But it's when it's encouraged, that's what's so important. When it's nurtured in somebody that has a love for it or a passion, that we can all learn to be better. You know, when we start off and we start looking at our early work as you know, creators, we always know it can get better. But that's what life's journey is about: getting better skills, you know, honing your craft, getting better at your craft, making better films, making better performances and better records. So yeah, I mean, they were sacred times, you know. But Grease and Superman, and I think maybe Watership Down, but I think that was a disaster because it was so depressing. But,
yeah, it's a sad one, all right.
Bambi was another killer. I think that was a bit of a, you know, shouldn't have done that because it was very upsetting films.
Yeah, I can remember. The first one of the earliest memories was Grease, and I went to the Curzon in Belfast, and I remember having the queue for like it seemed like for hours, and sure it wasn't. It was like 10 minutes or something. But and I think at that time, you may or may not remember this, but they used to run films just on a loop. You know, like they would permanently be going, and we came in sort of like 20 minutes into the film, but then stayed for the first 20 minutes at the end. You know, you could just stay there all day.
Brilliant.
But I remember, I mean, I think I was probably too young for the certificate of it even at all at the time. But it was kind of an amazing experience. But I mean, I think it's also, that's really interesting, you know, speaking about children going to the cinema. And I think even now we have a 6-year-old daughter, which we do our best to bring to the cinema as much as possible. And it's one of those places where, you know, in a world now where there's phones and iPads and screens everywhere, the cinema, you know, it's just one of those places of calm where, you know, she can just be completely immersed, and we can all be completely immersed in something, you know, and not be distracted by our phones, hopefully not distracted by people using their phones or the multiple screens that we have, or the multiple ways that we are contactable. You know, for me, it increasingly is a kind of a safe haven, a little piece of calm in a very busy world.
It's utter surrender, isn't it?
Yes.
I think, you know, when you go and see a great piece of theatre, or obviously a great film, because, you know, the cinema is so theatrical because you're in a movie theatre, and obviously with mobiles now, you know, kids can watch box sets, we can watch box sets or whatever on your mobile phone, on a train, in a plane, whatever. But, you know, it's the theatrics of going to the cinema and getting your popcorn or your drinks or whatever you want and sitting down, and then if it's brilliant, you're utterly engaged and you're completely and utterly entertained, you know. And obviously if it's not, you know, it's a different story, you can leave. But yeah, I just think it's you know, it is it's a classic way to be entertained. It's a classic way to see something because it is the theatrical release. It's in a theater that is built for performance. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty sacred. And when you think about nowadays, the kids laugh that we had landlines, and then maybe only one person in the street had a landline, that so-and-so down the road, go and ask Joe, can you use the phone, whatever, kids nowadays, but, young people nowadays find that hysterical, but in the same way, cinema, that was the heart of so many communities, cinemas.
Yes,
and
100%.
Theaters, they would have multi-tasked as theaters and music halls and dance halls. And I mean, my father tells a fantastic story about when they were young and the cinema, that was the thing you went to, that was the thing you did at the weekends, going to the pictures, they called it the pictures, and he said about when A Girl Can't Help It came out, the Little Richard soundtrack film. And, I think it's Diana Dors, is it? And A Girl Can't Help It. And my daddy said, that, I don't know if it was Diana Dors, I think it was, that the whole of the Rialto was up dancing as soon as the music started playing. He says everybody was up in the aisles dancing, and you're just like, that's the way it should be, because there's certain, like now where the Rialto, which breaks my heart, doesn't now stand, just slightly down from it a wee bit. They built the brilliant Millennium Forum in Derry, where we've done loads of gigs, but you're not allowed to dance. And I have so many friends, once they get a wee white wine or a wee gin and tonic into them, they're coming down the aisle, which cracks me up. But they're not allowed, for health and safety. You can't block an aisle, so you have to sit down. But they were everything. They were the center of the community.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a filmmaker, that's the dream. If you could make a film where everybody was dancing in the aisles, that would be, you would have done something right there, like.
Absolutely.
And over the years, I'm sure you've had you were discussing about, watching yourself on screen and all that sort of stuff. Some amazing premieres and been in some brilliant places, just with the films that you've had. And most recently, Bump Along the Way in Toronto, you were over at that, weren't you?
Yeah, that was incredible. And that was incredible. I mean, the big premieres were great, but I mean, I think the Belfast premiere was very special.
Yes.
And yourself and Lisa.
I was there, yes.
I know, we were so happy you were there. We were so happy. That night, I think, was very special for Louise, especially because, Louise is obviously, lives in Belfast, but,
yes, Louise is your sister. And
yeah, Louise is my...
Yes, we both know Louise, but for everybody else, Louise is your sister and the producer in the film, and she really...
Louise is the producer, absolutely, of A Bump Along the Way. So I think, because that was our first outing theatrically, and obviously, opening the Belfast Film Festival, which is obviously very special to us both, and to us all of the people that were involved in the film. I think because the reaction that night was so powerful and so positive and really overwhelming. I was a bag of nerves. Louise was 3 bags of nerves because she was the producer, and I hadn't seen anything of the movie, but we just... we were so moved by people's reactions, and, I realized while I was watching it and how moved people were, and I was really moved, myself and Lola were sitting watching it, that, it was a real sweetheart of a film.
Yes.
And it was such a, it just cut through the place of people's hearts, which is just like how tough life can be and how much of a struggle it can be, and it doesn't matter what you have, everybody's got stuff they're trying to deal with. And it just really came across the way we all wanted it to. So that was very special. And then obviously the Derry premiere was really, really powerful stuff as well. But I think the Belfast one was really, really a moment for us all. Now, obviously we went on to Toronto, and then we had Santa Barbara, so by then we were a wee bit spoilt because we knew what was coming, and we knew that the women and the men that had seen it afterwards, a lot of people that had seen the film that would have had issues that the character that I played had at the start, fertility issues, one night stands, people that, pretty, pretty common thing for people that, unplanned pregnancies, I should say.
Sure.
So, this was something then, but that's it. We were having people coming up, but we were never ever, prepared really for how moved people would be throughout all the premieres. So yeah, and the big premieres are great crack as well, you know, when you go to something that's really glamorous, you know, but you're working, you know, it's the work, and you're
Yes.
working to get ready, you're working all morning, you don't eat for a month before it, you know, and then you go, hi, I always look like this. No, you don't. And so, you know,
exactly what you said. Yeah, it's
you know,
like, exactly. And it's funny because I think at those sort of premieres, certainly in our experience as well, I mean, it's obviously brilliant and wonderful to be able to show your film in those sort of places.
aye,
You know, going to Toronto or whatever.
aye.
Everybody else shows up and has an absolute ball, and everybody, you know, can do this here. And Lisa and I tend to have to be getting up at, you know, 7 o'clock the following morning to go and do press, and you know, everybody else has been partying all night long.
Absolutely. You either stay out, go big or go home.
Yeah,
You know?
everybody else is having it large, and we're the ones who are having to keep it tidy, you know.
They're running up your hotel bill. No, but I mean, you know, I think it's the amount of work that obviously pre a movie coming out, especially if you're, you know, doing all the press for it, you know, the amount of work, because this is your time to sell the movie then, you know, so obviously, and festivals and stuff are a lot of work, there are a lot of talking, but that's, you know, that's the time, you know, you've made the movie, you've written the movie, financed the movie, you know, and then you got to sell it. So yeah, they're hard work, but they're great crack, you know, it's we're very lucky. We're very lucky to
unbelievable.
do
No
what
complaints
we do,
here, you know, it's a privilege to be able to. And yeah, you must, like, you know, you touched on it there. Obviously, the reaction to Bump has just been phenomenal, and phenomenal worldwide. Really, every audience that sees it. I mean, I really loved it. You know, as you say, it's just full of heart and soul. You know, and I think it's, you know, these are tough times that we're living through at the moment. You know, and just the connection that film has and the heart that it has, I think, is perfect for now. You know, so we're really delighted to have it at the Strand. It's coming up. I think there's a week-long run. And I'd really urge anybody who hasn't seen it yet to seek it out, to come along and to check it out. Bronagh, thanks so much for your time, and it's great to catch up with you. It's great. I look forward to doing it in real life, and maybe we can get into
I know the Corona coaster. Hang in there, people.
Exactly.
Hang in there.